Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the show where we have Josh, Landscaping to the Point, Josh and me, Scott. So, what's going on, Josh? It is a good morning here in Ohio. It's nice and sunny. I don't know about you. It looks like it's dark and dreary out there in Massachusetts.
It's like my
So,
soul, dark and dreary. No, it's actually clear skies, sunny. It's chilly, but we're going into a warm up next week, so we should be ready for spring cleanups on the early this year. Looks like winter's over for us.
yeah, we got 70s coming next week. So, I think we're going to go ahead and start it too, a couple of weeks ahead of schedule, which is fine by me. That means we can get ahead of other stuff just in case it does go the way we're hoping to, all be able to see more and more. So our topic today, if everybody's out there, whoever's listening, whoever's watching, not continue to watch us, listen to us on Spotify, watch us on YouTube. But our great topic today is what contracts. Well, contracts are a big part in our business, and I think contracts are always a big part in your business too. So, what is one main thing in a contract that literally we should have? I mean, I see a lot of people that are contacting me left and right about, like, should I put this in the contract? Should I put this in the contract? What is one of the main things you have in your contracts that's so important? And Nick says he loves donuts. I love donuts too, Nick, but you know, where were you supposed to bring the donuts, Nick, or what? He's not going to answer us. So, what is one thing that you should have in your contract that should just stick out as a main thing that that's so important?
For me, scope of work.
Okay.
And that goes across the board. Whatever you're doing, if it's mowing, if it's trimming, snow removal, scope of work, and plain kindergarten writing, so everybody understands exactly what you're doing when you get there. So scope of work, anything that's not in that scope of work is out of scope. Picking up dog shit is out of scope. Moving
Now I got a
koi.
lot of people talking about that lately, because that's one of the main things I think when it comes to mowing, like picking up dog crap. I mean, literally, it's all over the place. Some of these people don't do it. So how would you go about putting that into it? Like, would you put, hey, if I run over it and it destroys my tires, am I going to take care of? Are you going to take care of this, or are you going to pay me an extra fee? How would you put that into it?
Well, here's the thing. So, like, as a person, right, and even as a business owner, if a lawn company comes to me with like a 3-page, 4-page contract to cut my lawn with like all these clauses, with dog poop, kids' toys, I'm going to think twice and probably go to the easier guy, right? Now, if you just have scope of work, out of scope work, includes anything that's not in this above line, it's anything. It's dog poop. So, you have your billable hour on there. I mean, personally, like you said, like if I show up and the yard's full of dog shit, I'm not picking that up.
Right.
I mean, 1 or 2 is okay. You miss a couple bombs, it's fine. But I mean, like you said, I mean, when we mowed, I remember one year I dropped an account because she was a foster parent to dogs, and this was like borderline animal abuse, where they went out and ran and they pooped. She didn't pick anything up. I mean, the tires and the deck were just full of dog shit. And we pull that into a brand new enclosed trailer, and you're getting the skid marks across the floor. You go back, it's an hour or 2 to wash everything up, soap it up. It's gross. Not to mention it's not healthy to have that around you guys, touching it, spraying it back in your face. So I would either not do it or have the charge if you want to do it, and bill them hourly. Take timestamp photos and bill them hourly.
So Nick says from One Love over on YouTube, he says that dog poop is an extra charge, toys in the yard is an extra charge. And then we also have Mr. Grind Time on Instagram that says, yeah, dog poop does, grind his gears, I think that, yeah, you should definitely have an extra charge for it. Because literally, I mean, like you said, it's something that you got to go and clean up. It's not safe. It's not healthy for anybody. So, but yeah, I think you should definitely have that. Nick says you need an extra charge for your translation too. So I think over there in Massachusetts, I think they're all used to this. this talk. It's
Yeah.
we show up there, then they're kind of like, oh, what? We could charge for our extra, voice. But yeah, I think you should definitely charge for some of that stuff. Yeah, toys in the yard definitely it irks me sometimes when there's a ton of toys, especially dog toys or even some of the bigger bigger kid toys that you're like, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to move this trampoline? I mean, we have a couple places that we have big trampolines, and what are you going to do? Are you going to move them every week, or do you tell the customer, hey, it's extra charge if we have to move them?
I
You know,
did. I had 3 with trampolines, and we started like as a convenience. Hey, it'll take 2 minutes to move it back. But I remember when we were rushing, it's kind of you get there like, what the fuck, like another one. So we got to the point where we told them like, hey, listen, it's gonna go up $20 a month, $20 a mo, or we leave it where it is, and periodically you'll have to weed whack it.
right? Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, I've done the same thing. We kind of try to move them only if we have to. We had a couple people that actually will just leave them in place and just like, well, just trim around it. Don't, no need to go underneath it because literally, think about it. Otherwise, you're moving that trampoline all over the place and trying to remove it back. Why? Like, if it's not going to get seen, why move it? If you can get away with it, or move it every other week. I think that definitely helps us out if you don't have to move it, especially some of these bigger, heavier ones that they're putting out in the yards left and right.
Put it in this perspective. You're moving that trampoline back and forth, so you're moving that trampoline 60 times a year at a minimum.
Right.
60 times a year. No, it doesn't seem like much, but if you're a penny pincher like I am, 5-10 minutes to move it 60 times a year, that adds up real quick.
Oh yeah, it does. It continues to add up, and that's one of the things that, especially you should have that in your contracts. I mean, dog poop is definitely something. Toys is something. You should have in there in the contract of the scope of work of if there's branches that fell. That we can take care of these extra branches for you instead of just think about how many times you go to a yard after a big snowstorm or a big rainstorm and you get tons of sticks in the yard. The customer expects you to pick those up. But if you're not charging for them, how many, that costs you what, an extra hour to pick all those sticks up?
Yeah, but that goes back to the old school guys that would go around. They'd send their weed whacker guy out or their weed trimmer guy, and he'd be scouting for small sticks and picking them up. And that was part of the service. That's how guys baited people in, was to get, that little extra. And I get what you're saying. You're taking away from a guy, especially if he's got a lot of landscape beds and concrete walkways or asphalt walkways to go around and line edge, that takes away from him. So again, in that contract, spell out the scope of work in bold letters. You're there to mow, trim, blow.
Right.
You want to go extra, you can put line edge or whatever. Anything outside this scope of work is billed, $85 an hour per man hour.
Right.
And you make that clear to your customers, and you can bill in 15-minute intervals or an hour interval, whatever it is. Just get paid for it. You got to get paid for the extra time. Otherwise, take that time, that 20 minutes, if you got 15 yards a week, on top of your 80, whatever it is, and you're taking 10, 15 minutes in there, and then you're paying a guy to do that, that adds up continuously, for what is paid.
Yeah, definitely. So now what about cancelizations? What if you have to cancel a customer or they have to cancel? Do you have that in your contract too? I know in our contracts, it tells you that you have to notify us within a month of a cancellation date. So that way, it gives us time to just go and just stop cutting it. Sometimes they'll go ahead and somebody will say, hey, I need to get canceled. If I don't have it in writing in front of me by email, snail mail, whatever, by a text, I can't cancel them out. So I want it in writing. Now, do you have that in your?
So when I did lawn work, it was more or less 24 hours prior to the service. You have to, whether you wanted to cancel that service or cancel the subscription for the year. Okay. And the hardscape, what I do is when we book you, it's a $500 non-refundable deposit. And basically that covers the time of like booking, calling around, the whole process of the estimating. And then we get that 50% up front, a week prior. If you cancel, you're not getting that money back, right. And we do require obviously like 48 to 72 hours cancellation so we can rebook. If not, then we do book. It's something like 15 to 20% of the cost of the project. But here's the thing with some of these contracts, a lawn can contract, you're going after account like what? Let's say on average, like $1,500 to $3,000 a year, right, for a lawn care customer, depending on where you are in the country. That's where I put that such a wide price margin. How many of you guys are actually going to go to court for a $1,500 contract? So this is the thing. A lot of people look at that contract and tell you to go fucking pound sand because what are you going to do? Now, it does protect you on the side of scope of work when someone's complaining or they write a bad review. But as far as going to court, I don't know really anybody that's gone to court for someone in breach of a lawn mowing contract. So this is why, like, you know, when guys ask about cancellation and like, do you charge? I got a guy, David Consoli from Pleasant Valley Lawn Care. It's kind of a mentor to me. He's been in business longer than I've been alive. He actually has a clause in his contract where if you cancel the season, you owe 35% of the season for what, like, so if you're quoted 27 mows for the season in Massachusetts, he's getting you're paying on that. And he actually did have a constable go and pick someone up on, it wasn't a lawnmower, but it was a full package of spring cleanup, mulch, all that. He did bring them to court, and when they didn't pay, he had a constable go to the house and take them out cops.
Yeah, I think that works out better because I mean you kind of cover yourself because usually, yeah, like you said, on a mowing contract, are you going to go to court for somebody that's, you know, I mean, think about it. If you're just mowing them for 1 month at, you know, $50, are you going to take them to court for 50, you know, $200? I mean, most courts won't touch it, especially around our area, unless it's over 500. They won't touch it. So then you're at that point, like, what are you going to do? You know, are you going to go to court for that $200, or are you going to try to mow them for 2-3 months just to get that $500?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you take them to court, they still have to pay.
Right.
The court doesn't enforce them to pay the contract. The ruling can be in your favor, but they still have to pay you.
Right.
You know. So one thing I do suggest in those contracts, and what I did with mowing, I'm going back now. What I remember is I did charge the highest interest rate that Massachusetts would allow me on floating balances. It's compounding interest. So if you accrued, you know, $200 interest in the last month, that goes towards the balance, and your interest is based off that full balance next month. So that did get a lot of people. And then obviously there would be admin fees and late fees attached to that. Because I mean, you think about it, look at your cell phone bill. Your cell phone bill, you get a disconnect fee, you get a reinstallment fee, you get an agent fee, and then you get a late fee. So you could be up to like $75 in fees. Your gas company, you get a late fee, you get a balance transfer fee, and the same thing. If you pay with someone on the phone, it's like a $10 processing fee. I'm charging the same shit they're charging. Fuck that, you know?
Right. So I just had a friend of mine that literally he got sent to court because of another company that he didn't pay. I guess there was some stuff going on and he moved and it didn't get paid, a bill of his. So they waited 3 years. They charged him service fees for 3 years. And then they turned around and took him to court to put him over the 500 threshold to be able to say, this is what it is. So now, is that something that you'd be interested in doing for certain stuff like that? Is that liable to go ahead and do that? I know you're saying charge them the late fee, charge them the administrative fee, charge them, you know, a lawyer fee. Would you put all that in there and then wait to that point to take them to court?
It'd have to be a significant, for me personally, it'd have to be a significant sum. Because again, if you're going to court for like $1,000, $1,500, what if you get someone that really knows what they're doing? Maybe that studied law and a lawyer. They're going to try. They could be an ass and bring that out to a continuance. And now you're having to pay these court fees to continue going. And they might drag it out to the point where, hey, you're already at $1,500 in court fees. What are you going to do? And then you got to roll the dice if the ruling's in your favor. So yeah, again, you pick and choose your battles. I think that the biggest thing you can do is express in detailed writing. Don't try to be fancy with it. Write the scope of work you're going to perform, and out of scope of work is X amount. If you start, you can put an example like dog poop, toys, lawn furniture, branches, sticks, leaves. Those are all out of scope work. I usually would just put out of scope work, and it's really whatever's not in that sentence or that line.
Right. Yeah, I mean, keep it simple. The main thing you want to do is keep it simple. A lot of other guys are also asking me, should you take it to a lawyer in your state and make sure that it's totally legal?
So I think you should. Some of the wording you definitely should, and it all depends on your budget. You know, one thing I suggest to guys now, what helps is I don't know if this app will show up,
right?
But this app is called Chat GPT. This is an AI chat that you can, well, if you look, it's this app right here, right?
Okay.
It's a free
Yep.
download, and you can go AI, write me a lawn care contract. It will break up. You'll have to fill in, cross your T's, dot your I's.
Right.
But I actually had to do a updated safety handbook. And for a bit, I was putting in for development work, and I didn't have one that was updated. So I was like, you know what? Hold on. AI, write me a employee safety handbook for landscaping and hardscaping. And it broke it down. And if you give me a second, if I have it, I'll give you just an idea. So landscaping safety policy, it goes in and it breaks it down to several paragraphs, right? And introduction at Curve and Green Company, a safety and well-being of our employees are of utmost importance. The safety policy outlines our commitment to maintaining a safe environment for all employees engaged in landscaping activities. Responsibilities, management is responsible, and it gives kind of a scope of work. So it's pretty nifty for guys that, maybe the $500 to $1,000 isn't in their budget. Again, lawn care, if you're charging interest and, you think that you might go, you might chase people into court or put them out to collections. Yes, then you definitely want to go to an attorney and have the verbiage written correctly. We're not lawyers. We're not, we didn't go to law school.
Right.
Go to someone that did it. It's the same way that guys that do their accounting that are in big companies. I don't get it. You're in the liability when you go to somebody else. Why would you want to do, $1 million in taxes yourself, no matter how smart you are? Go to the guy that you got educated on,
Right. Definitely. I think that's definitely AI is going to make it a little bit better. So now did that wording, did it come out to be in, over a page?
It actually, I think it came out to a page and a half, and it had 10 bullet points, like continuous improvement, drug and alcohol policy, emergency preparedness, safe work practices, hazard identification and reporting, equipment safety, PPE, training and education, responsibilities, and introduction. And again, you can add to these, but these give you a paragraph for each one. So it's a paragraph for each, and then you can obviously you copy and paste it to a PDF. You put your letterhead on it, you put the date, and you can put an X, make a line, have your employee sign it, you sign it, and you can also add things. I mean, I don't know if it shows up on the screen, but I mean, this is just the gist of how long it is.
Yeah, I think that helps out. I mean, I think that's what's going to happen. I think that AI is definitely going to help in that form of way of adding contracts and stuff and updating safety manuals and all that stuff. I think that's going to definitely help out a lot.
Well, this was great because I was on the last day of a bid. I didn't want to call out. We have a quick 1-page safety thing that's just kind of informal.
Right.
It's basically for guys that we don't know that come in. But again, that's Chat GPT. I'm sure most of the guys that listen to this will know it, but it will help if you want a lawn care contract, a landscaping contract, safety policy, anything like that.
Nice. Okay. So now, have you updated your contracts for that way, or are your contracts pretty much ran through a lawyer and all that stuff?
So my contracts are pending right now. I had to change a lot of stuff. So what I'm getting into, a lot of companies won't sign our contracts. We have to sign theirs, and we submit that to a lawyer if it's a big enough job, just to go over and make sure we're not liable for anything.
Right. So which is better if let's say you're doing a lot of work with all these commercial companies, they send you a contract. Which is better, you signing their contract or them signing your contract? Because I think in the long run, I think both companies should sign the contract, each other's contract.
I don't know how many companies will actually sign it. Like a smaller outfit, the small and medium outfit would probably sign your contract, but these larger construction companies usually aren't going to sign your contract. I'll submit them with the estimate to see if I can get them back. Every once in a while, you'll get a procurement officer that'll sign them. But for the most part, it's like, think of a national company like a Case or a Ferrandino. They're not signing your contract. You're signing their contract. You're a subcontractor for them. So, they'll never sign one of your contracts, but, they can sign off on the quote you know, and you
Right.
could have a little disclaimer on there. But for me, again, with the construction, I review it, you know, the lawyer will review it. And as long as you get the thumbs up with the payment schedule, you know, scope of work, terms and conditions, give the thumbs up, then you sign it. You know, I always will try to submit a contract with the bids though. On residential, yeah, we have something written up, short, informal. It goes out, and basically, and the last thing I was going to say on this was payment terms. Obviously,
Right.
what money's doing when, you know, and again the interest and all that stuff. So you want to make sure residential scope of work, timeline, and payment terms and warranty.
Okay. You have completion dates on yours.
Nope.
Okay. I think that's important that you don't. I think a lot of people want the start completion date and end completion date, and I feel like I've been burned in the past on that because a lot of times you can't guess the weather and how it's going to end and how it's going to go from day to day, week to week, and so it's easier to just say we will schedule it out and we'll get to you, and say March and we'll go from there. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, I'll if someone says, "Hey, I got a party going on at this time," we'll do our best to accommodate. But at the same time, you should have done your due diligence and had that done way prior and called us way prior. I won't commit to completion dates or with the development and commercial work, you kind of have to. But on the residential side, no way. There's too many variables. That's like if it mows 4 days in a row. I mean, if it rains 4 days in a row. They expect you to get out that next day and knock out their lawn, not realizing like, hey, it's still waterlogged and you're going to cause ruts and more damage.
Right.
You
Right.
can't bag it. It's a mess. So it's like there has to be understanding behind that. And the same thing goes, we had a project in 2021, which was the wettest year on record in Massachusetts. And we were working on an area that was colonial era. And it was farmlands. It was a farm back in the colonial era. So everything was just decomposing to the ground. There was no actual clay or anything. It was just soil. And we had excavated and we came back after the Memorial Day holiday and it was just a river. And, we had to disappear and come back 2-3 weeks later. It rained again. We had to use sump pumps to, clear out trenches. So, if I had completion dates on that, I would have been screwed. I've heard horror stories from guys not in this industry, but in other trades. Completion date will be, November 5th. And then any day over November 5th is the $150 credit to the homeowner or the purchaser. So you have to be careful. I would never sign. I'd walk away from a contract like that.
Right.
Too many things come up. We work outside. Too many things come up.
Oh yeah. I mean, the weather can happen. You could get sick. Something could happen. Equipment breakdown. I mean, it's hard to put a completion date on any contract. And I think that's, talking with other people lately about contracts and stuff and other companies. Yeah, it's one of those things that I don't see anymore on contracts, and I think a lot of them are not putting it on a contract. Like you said, the scope of work, description of how do you get paid, your payment schedules or whatever, all that is in there, but completion date is, I think, has gone away. And if you don't, definitely get rid of it as soon as you can, because that could definitely hurt you in the long run.
I'll give a verbal target date to a residential client, but I won't write it up that it can be misconstrued as like that's a completion date. But typically they'll ask, can we put it on paper? When's it going to take? When it'll be done? Or when do you think it'll be done? I said, typically, on a smaller job, 3 days to a week. On a larger job, 3 to 6 weeks. And I tell them there's a lot of variables that come in. It all, what if you run into utilities? If it's non-buildable soil, there's too much that comes into play.
So, okay. So now you put that in there, utilities. Do you put that in there that the customer has to mark the utilities, or do you call to get the utilities marked?
We call. We're the liability. We're the digger. So the liability's on us.
Okay. So you pretty much let them know right in that scope of work that we're going to contact 811 and they're going to come out, mark everything, and we won't start till at least that's been done, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, everybody pretty much over here. Seems like they research the project, the customers, and they understand 811. They usually ask, hey, you want us to do it? I said, nope. The tickets expire. We do it a few days before we come out. They're really good out here with, that 2 to 3 day rule. I've had times where they're out within a few hours marking utilities. So
that's good. And do you trust them? That's
No,
another.
no.
Okay. I think a lot of people trust the 811, and I feel like, yeah, you shouldn't trust them. I mean, I've seen some horror stories where they've caught a line, they've caught all kinds of stuff, and that's definitely, you should always, take your time, especially, you know, what I think you said last one or a couple of ones, but before it's like what, 3 feet that they have minimum on each side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, definitely be careful when you get stuff marked out.
When you
Okay.
when you register for 811, you can register in the portal now, so you don't have to call. I get your email, and usually DigSafe or the individual companies will host a free luncheon and kind of give you the rules and the outline of, like, if you're marked, hand dig and this, like, they'll walk you through what to do. They'll walk you through the safety guidelines and what to do. And that's great because that's something you could also put in a safety procedure, an employee
Right.
handbook of, like, if you were to hit a gas line or electrical line or a fiber optic, like what to do in that instance. Because the last thing you want is you don't want to leave a site and then you get a phone call that someone nicked a utility line and they don't know what to do.
Correct. So now, would you recommend attending those? I know I've attended them. We just got one not too long ago from a pipeline in our area and a electric company to attend a meeting. So,
I did one years ago. It was like a one and done for me. So
okay.
that's the one thing I knew. Like, even anybody knew it's labor. Like, the one thing we do is we walk through like safety procedures of, like, if you hit a utility line. I mean, obviously, first things first, you call 911.
Right.
Fiber
Right.
optic, no, but gas or electric, call 911.
Right. That's, I think, the best thing to do. All right. So now that we have covered all that stuff in the contract, do you put out? Okay, so I heard this out literally on Instagram not too long ago that somebody puts out their contracts and they give them a 15-day leeway, and then after that they change everything up. So at that point they change the price, they change whatever it is, the scope of the work or whatever, and wait for the customer to contact them. Would you do that, or do you do that? Give them like a 15-day leeway on pricing and everything, and 15 days to sign the contract. Okay, I think we lost him. You hear me, Josh? Josh. All right, so Josh left us. So, like I said, I've heard that around. Pricing, I can understand that pricing does change day to day. Sometimes it doesn't change that much. But I think pricing, it just depends on how you want to do that. When it comes to that, contracts, your contract's not going to change. The scope of work is not going to change. The way you get paid is not going to change. Yeah, that's something that you might want to change year to year, but I don't think it's going to change from that job to job. So go ahead and put it in there as how you want your pricing, and then go from there. Well, we are waiting on Josh to pop in. But yeah, contracts are definitely important when you come to having a contract. Definitely make sure that you have a contract in place for when you're mowing, you're landscaping, you're doing any type of irrigation work, any type of that stuff. Having a contract in place is going to come in handy, no matter if it's a short contract, a long contract, even a form that you put on attached to a quote that says, this is the scope of work, this is how we're getting paid, and how we want to go proceed with the services for you. So that's definitely something that you should always look into it. So definitely put that on to your when you go to quote for everything, put it into to play. So Josh is coming back on. So how is everybody out there on Instagram and YouTube today? Pretty good? Good. So let's see here. I'm looking back here at the things. So I think our next topic, which we're going to wait for Josh to come on here, is customer service. I think customer service is very important to be able to put out to everybody. When you run a business, customer service is key. So how you talk to the customer in the long run is very important. How you handle talking to other clients, other people around the cities and stuff, and even your employees, how you talk to them. So I feel that you should treat a lot of your customers like family, um, and treat them with respect, because every time you go to a customer, no matter how you talk to them, they're gonna tell somebody else about you, no matter if it's bad, good, iffy. Just talking to a customer the other day that's having some other services, they are having issues with something. So they are going to, they said that the other company that they're having do some other work for them, that if they ever have any problems and somebody asks about them and how it went, they're going to go ahead and tell them the whole story. And I feel like, yes, that's something that will happen to you. So the way you treat a customer, how you handle through your contracts, through your work, it always comes back to that customer, and that customer will remember you for that way. So I think no matter how the customer contacts you via phone, email, whatever, you should definitely be nice to them. You should always be upbeat, happy if you can. I know we have our bad days and our, not so perfect days, but definitely treat them as best as you can. So I think that's definitely one of the things that you should always do. So Josh is coming back on. So in the landscaping game, there's a lot of things that can come up, especially when you're doing little work. Like he was saying, out of scope work. So literally, I think having that written up, if you do want to do extra stuff, put in your hourly charges. So putting that in your contracts, letting customer know by communication is definitely key. So here, Josh is right there. He's right there. He likes to come back on. How, Josh? You glitched me out. So what's going on, Josh? Do you hear me now? He's glitchy.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
All right.
So
I don't know what's going on here. My connection's big, but
it's because you're in the attic and you lost power, it looks like. So I mean, that's what it is. So customer service. I was talking a little bit about customer service and how you should treat a customer. And do you go over with your employees on how they should treat a customer?
yeah, I was kind of listening. I jumped on Instagram real quick and was listening, but I don't agree with treating them like family. So I used to agree with that, and I feel like I was taken advantage of. And I do feel, in my experience, and this has happened, they treat you like family to get what they want, and then the second something goes wrong, it's fuck you.
I can understand that. Yeah.
At the end of the day, landscaping, lawn care, and snow plowing is a thankless business. They'll praise you when you do a good job, but forget about it. If something's bad, you're the biggest piece of shit. So I try to keep it I'm friendly.
Right.
I'm approachable and personable, but I keep it professional. I don't cross that line. I still have a few from the very beginning that I was very, extremely friendly with and tried to befriend them, and I still chat with them. They're clients, but moving forward, I was burnt by a handful of customers that played that card, and I didn't like how it ended. So from there, I said, you know what, I'm not gonna individually pick. It's across the board. This is just what it is.
Okay. Yeah, I can kind of see that. I mean, yeah, I have been burned a couple times. Yeah, and I think some do take advantage of you by saying, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do that extra? Try to get extra work out of it." Correct? Is that what you're trying?
I had a woman that used to flirt with my guys to get extra. She come out, graze the shoulder. Oh, hi, handsome, blah blah blah. And that's like, come on.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things. I guess I think you, like you said, you got to treat everybody the same, no matter what. Yeah, I think being professional is the main thing that to be done. I mean, being straight across the board of being professional, saying it's this, and that, then you're not having no issues down the long run, too.
Yeah. Don't be a dick,
Right.
but they ask you a question, talk to them, be personable, laugh, chuckle, you're human. But at the end of the
Right.
day, like, I don't need to sit there and shoot the shit with my plumber or my electrician at my house, like, to me, I'm like, I think what's more important is do the job the best you can that they're paying for. You charge, if you're charging a buck, give them that buck and a quarter service, give it that extra, a little bit extra, that blowing off the walkway, that blowing off the little valley when you're line edging, those are the little extras that matter.
Right. But just don't get to know them all personally if you can. Don't tell them your life story if you can, right?
Yeah, I mean it's opinionated, but yeah, some guys like it, but I don't bother with it. Not worth it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I see what you're saying too. So here's a good question for you. When you're hardscaping here, okay, do you put down in your contracts and your quotes, and I think we talked about this before, like the scope of work, do you put down like how many tons, how much material you're going to use, how many square foot of bricks you're going to use, how many bricks, if you're using perma edge, whatever you're using, do you put all that in the thing, or you just put out like this is what we're using and not put out the exact material numbers? Because I see a lot of guys that are complaining by putting out the exact numbers. Customers are coming back at them and saying, well, you didn't use 5 railroad ties here when you said you used 5, you used 4.
So I'm going to use the example of a patio because we do more patios and walkways.
Correct.
So it's written up and it's simple. It's not written in a PDF. Last year it was written on Jobber. I still have Jobber, but I've scaled back quite a bit, and I'll probably drop them this year. I've gone back to QuickBooks.
Oh no.
Yeah, nothing bad. Job is good. It doesn't fit my business model. That's all.
Right. I think it all. Your CRM should fit your business model no matter what you have. Like you said, you're going back to QuickBooks, and I think that's fine. I think it all comes down to whatever CRM works best for you, or which way you work and how you bill and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like
I just don't. I don't have the amount of clients to justify it anymore. Like continuous weekly clients, I don't have that many to justify it. So the cost, outweighs the benefit. Blah blah blah. So anyway, just to go back to what we're talking about, do I itemize? So what I do is I write up for a patio. I go by ICPI industry standard. We're in the frost area, so we're written up. Scope of work, simple excavation. Simple excavation means dirt. Small boulders, no bigger than like 5-6 inches. Obviously, if it's something we can just pull out, we'll pull out. 10 inches of base, 6 to 10 inches of base, 1 inch of either mason sand, coarse sand, or 3-inch chipstone, pavers, polymeric sand. And it'll give you quantities. Anything outside of that is additional digging, and we put that's billed at an hourly rate. We don't typically fall into that too much. But it is there to protect us. And what we'll do is we'll knock on the door and explain to them like, hey, listen, what we do is we try to get, maybe an hour or 2 of digging. And then if we have to make a soil amendment, we'll make a soil amendment. Again, back to utilities. If you have a fiber optic or a gas or electric line running through that's, not shallow enough, those are made to spec. So they're supposed to be like a minimum like 18 inches in depth. If they're too high, I've had gas lines that are too high. Like, hey, you got to call the gas company out. They're going to have to drop that down. It doesn't really cost us anything, but we have to delay the job. So I do try to be extremely careful because I've made that error before in the beginning where, I try to itemize everything, overestimate a little, let the customer know in the email, like, hey, I put it in for 50 railroad ties. I think it's only going to need about 45, but I just added that in. Anything lesser, I'll pass on to you, or I'll deduct off the bill.
Right. Well, I mean, you have to go, especially if you're doing curves, you add 10%, correct? Or you add 15%.
Yeah.
More. So, I mean, it's one of those things, I think, especially when you quote stuff. I mean, especially us quoting, landscaping, doing mulch. I mean, you could say it's 6 yards and, you're going to use only 5.5. It's one of those things you might be off by a little bit, but you have to make sure that you have enough when you go to do a project, correct? I mean, you can't just show up and say, okay, I got exactly 50, railroad ties. That's all I need. So You show up and you got to make a couple cuts. Now you're off, and that costs you time. That costs you your money to go back and get more. Correct?
You should always, so like with material, I personally think you should add 15% more on the total. 15 as far as quantity.
Right.
Order it up, and you could even put that at cost just to cover your own ass. Not necessarily late. Like if you got to add 5 railroad ties, how long does it take to put 5 more railroad ties or 10 more retaining wall blocks up? But those little things matter and they add up.
Right. It all adds up as long as you have it in writing in a contract and know that you have it figured out in the long run, and knowing your numbers is half the battle, like they say. So
the reason why I write those patios the way I do is because I don't itemize my my estimates. I can if someone wants to. I'll itemize them like by pay for patio install, loam, irrigation. The reason why I do that is because where I'm under $1 million per year, I don't want to have to allocate sales tax in Massachusetts, so I bulk price it into a service. I pay the sales tax on the material. So in theory, it's marked up, but it's if they ever ask or go through it, it's the labor is the difference. And I save the receipts, I pay the sales tax. When I go over a certain amount, at some point, then we'll start allocating and itemizing. But right now, it's just easier, quicker for me. Like I know most materials off my head. They were saved into Jobber and QuickBooks. Jobber syncs to QuickBooks, so all that stuff carries over. That was the benefit of having them. QuickBooks was my accounting software. Jobber was my CRM. Anything I put in, I would sync at the end of the month or the end of the week. But yeah, I do. That's my way. I won't itemize. Even if I do itemize, I'll itemize it so they can see the quote with the markup, the 20-25% on the markup. But when I write the bill, it's a lump sum item, like Acme Landscape subcontractor. Installed 300 square feet of paver patios, stone base, blah, 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 completion and the total.
Nice. Okay. That's very good. A lot of good information here, guys. A lot of good information today. We always have great information. Okay. Here's an off the wall question for you. What goes better on pizza, pineapple or sardines?
Pineapple. And it's funny. Me and my youngest daughter, we made pizza last night, and her and I are both pineapple heads. Sardines, I won't touch a fucking sardine, dude. See you later. I feed my dog and my cat sardines, but I won't. I don't touch that shit.
I agree with you. I don't think sardines belong on pizza. I mean, I really don't. I mean, there's people that like it, and I tell you, I would not put that. I'd rather put the pineapple, and I'm fine with pineapple. I love pineapple on pizza.
Hawaiian or pineapple, pepperoni, something like that. Don't bother me. I like it. I know some people think it's crazy, man, but I love it.
Yeah, I think it's totally fine. I mean, it can be fine. I mean, if you like fruit, I mean, why not put fruit on your pizza? I mean, pizza is, the sauce is a fruit, so why not connect the fruits together?
So here's a question for you and for anybody listening or watching at any point. And this is how we're going to know if anybody listens, because I want you to answer this question.
Okay.
Do you call marinara sauce, pasta sauce, or gravy, the red sauce?
Sauce? Why would I call it gravy? Gravy is brown. I mean,
exactly.
Right. Gravy's brown. Okay, yeah, it kind of gets a little bit different when you have like sausage gravy because it's more of a whitish gravy. Okay, because but I don't call my Alfredo sauce gravy. I call it sauce. So there's a little bit of difference in there.
Gravy goes on mashed potatoes, turkey on Thanksgiving. Right. Pasta sauce goes on pasta. And I asked that because this is a debate. You got these Italians out here in this region or Massachusetts or Boston that are like 5th to 7th generation fucking Italians, and they go, "Hey, Ma, put the gravy on the pasta." And I remember I heard that. I'm like, "I'm putting fucking gravy on pasta, man. What's wrong with you?"
I would never call it gravy.
And I asked legit 2nd generation and 1st generation where I buy my materials from, Tewksbury Masonry, Tewksbury, Mass. Shout out. They are, the old man he has the accent off the boat from Italy. Extremely nice people. I asked them just to double check, and they said, "Fucking gravy?" Like, what? And I'm like, thank you. Right. But then you ask the Italians from like East Boston to the North End, and a lot of those, the younger ones that are American, and they're probably second, third, fourth generation American.
Right.
They're calling it gravy, and it drives me fucking nuts.
Yeah, I could never call it gravy. I mean, it's always been sauce. And if they change it on the cans and say gravy instead of sauce, I'm gonna be pissed. Tell you the truth. Like, why would you do that? Like, it's sauce.
Yeah. So
You
put
know,
your answer in the comments. I'm gonna put this
Yeah.
on the story on Instagram,
Yeah,
and I want some
definitely.
answers. What do you call it? Sauce or gravy? The stuff you put on your pasta or your lasagna?
But do you think it's a certain area? Okay, because you said you're over on the east side of Massachusetts. They call it gravy. So do you think like different areas? Like, okay, we talk all over the United States, all over the world. So I want to know, like, does people in like Illinois and around Chicago area call it sauce, or do they call it gravy?
I would imagine, if you're living in the hills, or the cornfields, you're gonna call it sauce. But I don't think it's a demographical thing. I think it's a type of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying. Like if you go out to like Kansas or Oklahoma or something like that, it might be different. I think it's a type of people, man. It's probably more common in like the big cities, New York, Boston, Cali, Florida. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a type of people.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the gabagoo,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Here's a good one for you then. Do you call your Pepsi soda? Do you call it pop or soda pop?
So I know you guys call it pop out there. When I was younger, my mother and my aunts and uncles would always call it pop.
Okay.
The reason why I think they called it pop, there was a brand called Pop. It was like the cheap, 50 cents for this is back in like the 90s, but 50 cents for a liter or 2 liter.
Right.
But I call it soda. I don't call it pop.
So you call it soda.
Yeah, but I grew up with pop.
See, that just throws my mind out. So why did you change it from pop to soda? Is it just because of everybody around?
That's the wording that was around, soda. The boomers, the boomers around me would call it pop, a soda pop. And then anybody else, you want a soda? And there's people that would say cola and they'd give you Pepsi or they give you like orange soda, and that drove me nuts too.
Right.
Orange pop, orange pop. My grandmother would call it orange pop.
Okay. So now that gravy could be changed, like sauce could be changed to gravy down the road. Your daughter might be calling it gravy instead of sauce.
My daughter will never call fucking pasta sauce gravy as long as I'm fucking alive. And in the grave, I would come back and haunt her. Hell fucking no.
She's gonna come in one day with your grandkid, and the grandkid's gonna say gravy, and you're gonna be like, "What the heck?"
And they're gonna leave my house. Get out until you can fucking name it right. What it is.
Get out of my house. I don't want gravy. I want sauce on my pizza.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put gravy on their fucking pasta and say, "Go ahead, you can eat that."
Yeah. See, it could come about. I think it just depends on the area too when it comes to soda and pop. I mean, I've heard a different way. We always called it pop here. When I went to California to visit family out there, it was always called soda. And I was always kind of like weirded out about it, do you want a soda? And I'm like, no, I want a pop, and my grandma was from the same area as us. So she would always be like, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. My cousins, my aunts were always like, what is he talking about? A pop? Like, we want soda. So
I gotta ask. I got brothers still over in Kansas City, Missouri. I gotta reach out to them and ask them what they call it.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting. I'd like to know, because that's another one that's people, So if do you call it soda or do you call it pop? People, we're gonna put that out there too. So that's gonna be another one later this week too. So we want to know: do you like sauce or gravy on your pizza, right, or pasta? So we're gonna see this. So that just blows my mind. It just blows my mind. I'll tell you that much. But we're coming to the end, guys. Josh, do you have anything else going on this week? You said you're going to get ready to go. You're going out the door this week. You're going to do cleanups, correct?
I don't know. We got a little bit of a cold front coming in with possibly some sleet on
Wednesday,
on Friday. I think Friday into Saturday, or maybe Thursday into Friday.
Okay.
So we're gonna go up. We're gonna get things ready. We're probably taking a couple sanders out. We're gonna start bringing pushers back. We're gonna start pulling equipment off sites. The guys are gonna pull out the equipment, the compactors and saws, and make sure they're ready to go. Switch blades, start washing stuff off and more or less just get ready. I have a ton of bids out that I'm waiting to come back on. There are some commercial maintenance, so we might be getting back into maintenance. And I'm looking for opinions too. I was referred because I'm cheap, and we don't do a lot of maintenance. We're not getting back into residential. I didn't want to spend 20 grand on a walker or 17,000 on a Skag, but I was referred by a colleague for Bradley mowers. Get the price point and what you get, like 6 grand for and this isn't a push. We're not sponsored by these guys.
Right. We're not
just I'm looking for opinions on them. 6 to 7 grand for a 48-inch stand-on seemed reasonable for me.
Well, Nick, if he was on here, he jumped off, but Nick kind of runs Bradley all the time. He kind of got me into a little bit of Bradley. I bought a used Bradley before. I've had to do some work on it because it was just not maintained right. The engine wasn't maintained. And so far, the only thing I've had issues with it is tires. So
like wearing out too quick, or
they're just not like just like when I run my Graveleys, the front tires are solid. Okay, so literally them are not solid, so they just you hit a little hole, a little something, you're gonna pop them.
Yeah, gotcha.
So I mean, other than that, I mean, we run our Gravely every day. We run our Bradley every day. The Bradley, we've had no issues so far, knock on wood, except for, like I said, the engine and the tires. The engine was not maintained well. It wasn't kept up when we bought it. So literally we had to put some money into it. So other than that, I've had no problems with it. And for the price point, I think compared to, 6 grand compared to literally, I just looked at a Skag yesterday, and a Skag was 14 grand. I mean, 6 to 14, that's double the price. You can buy 2 of them compared to 1.
But that's what I mean. So, we haven't done maintenance in years. And the only reason why we might be introducing it is just for the snow contracts where, some of these places, they want one company to do it. I do have some extra laborers. I have some snow shovelers that wanted to jump on full time this year. I have the trail, I have the truck for it. So, it was just the mowers. We have everything else. I didn't throw the blowers and the weed whackers or the line trimmers, whatever you want to call them, away. I have all that stuff. So it was just the cost of mowers. And because these are typically 1-year contracts, I don't want to throw a ton of money. I figure with the Gravely mowers, as long as I can get some decent reviews, and I want firsthand reviews from guys that are in the industry, if I can get them, and I'd like to see what the resale value is. So if we don't get these contracts back next year, maybe I can get 50% back on the mower if it's maintained and they don't run up the hours.
Well, if you maintain it, okay, if you buy one for 6 grand, maybe I'll make a drive and buy it off you for 3 grand the next year if you don't.
There you go.
So,
and again, I'd rather put the investment in my construction side than the maintenance side.
Right.
And I hate to say that. I know it's you get out of it what you put into it, but it's just not something that I'm looking to build. We did put bids in with the city of Boston for mowing parks, and we got blown out of the water. So those are gone. That kind of would have been the the big part of it.
Right. I think it all comes down to, like you said, a lot of now the prices are gone up on the mowers. And, from 15,000 to 6,000. I mean, that, if you're not going to want to be in it that long, or if you need to allocate money to other things, why put that much money into it? You can get by on, a mower that can last you 2-3 years, usually for that 6 grand. Most of these mowers last you 2-3 years. So why put in the 14 grand into one if you can't,
That's what I mean. If you could turn it over every 2 years, 3 grand a year, 4 grand a year, for the mower, depreciate it, and then turn it over, sell for cash or trade it in and get another one.
Yep. Okay. So if you guys have any thoughts about Bradley, I know everybody's out there listening. So if you have any thoughts about Bradley, definitely comment on this post here and let us know. Comment on the video here and let us know also too, or send us a message. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Hey, maybe we can get someone from Bradley to come on and talk about the mowers. That'd be cool.
I actually do know somebody from Bradley. Nick introduced me into somebody, so maybe I can contact him and see if we can get him on here and
that'd be cool.
Talk a little bit about Bradley, because it'd be nice to get a couple different people from some other brands to talk about their brand of mower and what the difference is. Because there's a lot of them are coming out, and it makes you wonder what the difference is.
And the one thing about this show, that if someone has a bad experience with Bradley, we're not afraid to ask them. So
That's
we're
right.
not afraid. We're not afraid to put anybody on the chopping block of the hot seat. So if you got a question about it, or you had a beef with them, or you got a defective unit, bring it up. Go on live when you hear it and ask the question and make them answer you.
Yeah, definitely. We want to. We'll put somebody up for it in the hot seat. We want to know exactly the pros and the cons against a piece of equipment. So if you've used it even once and you didn't like it, tell us why. We want to put that to the whoever we're going to talk to about it. I want to know exactly what the reasoning is. So
on the fly questions.
Yep, we love those. Well, that's all we got for today. It was nice talking to you about contracts, Josh. Wish JC was here. He's out. Who knows what he's doing? He's out and about trying to find out his new studio for his OnlyFans place, but who knows? But thank you, Josh. Thank you guys for being on. Thank you, Cujo, which is our show sponsor, Cujo Yardwear. Thank you for being there. And if you guys need any shoes, I know Josh doesn't like Cujos, but hey, I like them. I wear them, and we all got our opinions. So, hey, if you need a pair of Cujos, hit the link below and grab it. And then be on the lookout for these questions, because these questions definitely need answered, and we need to figure out this stuff. So,
gravy or sauce?
Gravy or sauce, soda or pop, and what is better? What is better? Bradley's. We want to know. So, thank you guys for being on. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks, Josh, for being on. And everybody have a great day, great rest of the week. Keep listening to us on Spotify